join the triumphant return to the stage of one of the greatest operatic tenors of our time as Jose Carrera sings the works of Andrew Lloyd Webber. Jose Carrera sings Andrew Lloyd Webber, Thursday on Bravo.
Do you think that what we do really matters in the big picture? Or?
Well, I think culture, art is a reflection of our culture, so absolutely it matters. And even if it doesn't matter, I think that artists have a responsibility, a personal agenda and a personal responsibility to somehow be a part of this world and be a part of that consciousness and feel socially responsible, whether it's true or not. So, yeah, I do think they've changed things. I mean, I think of movies in my life that I mark places in my life by the movies I've seen and the movies that have changed me. There's something about a human moment, that I think that we never forget.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about sex. I'm sure you're shocked. My advice would be this. Even though you're embarrassed, go to your drugstore or your chemist or to the souk or the Casbah or wherever it is you live and get some condoms and use them. Even if you're young, even if you don't quite know what you're doing, try and be safe. AIDS is very dangerous and it is out there. And we must educate ourselves and we must take precautions.
Bravo, the critic's favorite TV network, is expanding from nights to night and day. That means more award-winning films, more cool jazz, and more cult TV series like Max Headroom. And you can see it all commercial-free. Bravo, the creative force in television, night and day, beginning January 1st, 1994. Call your cable company today.
Coming up next on Bravo, meet a pair of talented and successful dancers when the South Bank Show traces the careers of Viviana Durante and Darcy Russell, two ballerinas at the Royal Ballet. Next on Bravo. Fascinating, intriguing, always compelling. Profiles of the greatest names of the past and present. It's an all-new season of the Ace Award-winning South Bank Show, coming up next, only on Bravo.
Hello, the Royal Ballet opened its autumn season at Covent Garden last week. Expectations are running high. After a slow period in the late 80s, the company is currently thriving. Despite problems at the box office, attributed with some cause to a below-par subsidy, critics have noted a new vitality. This excitement owes much to a new generation of Royal Ballet stars, particularly two young ballerinas who've emerged to remarkable reviews, Viviana Durante, who's 25, and Darcy Russell, who's 23. Both women trained as children at the Royal Ballet School. Both have risen through the company's ranks. Russell is English, Durante is Italian. They're so different in style that you can't make direct qualitative comparisons, but through these two very distinct dancers, we look into what it means to be a ballerina in London today.
People always see ballet as pretty girls on stage in pretty costumes with long legs or, you know, lovely arms and things like that. But it's completely different. When you get into rehearsals, you get all sweaty and your muscles ache. And sometimes you feel, I don't want to do this, I hate this, you know. I don't feel pretty, I feel ugly, you know. Good.
Away from the glamour of Covent Garden, Baron's Court is the Royal Ballet's daily workplace for class and rehearsal. Ballet training has to start young, and both Viviana Durante and Darcy Bussell began their formal training at the Royal Ballet's own school, White Lodge, in Richmond Park.
And ribs, careful. Good girl, better. 1. Supporting heel forward.
The children come to White Lodge at the age of 11, and they stay, those that are successful, until 16.
Girls. Balance. Now smoothly up to fifth. Hold. Back.
We're looking for a particular type of body, proportions, line, feet.
Heels. Good girls.
Terribly important is tradition there. A lovely route in the middle of this beautiful park where the tradition of the English school can be kept and preserved. And the children go there at the age of, I think it's 10 or 11, to serve their country as their national dancers for the rest of their lives.
Ninette de Valois founded the Royal Ballet School in 1931 to provide the company with a steady supply of dancers trained and disciplined to the highest standards. Now recognised as one of the world's top ballet schools, it draws students from all over the world.
Which characteristic is controlled purely by the genes people inherit?
C.
Correct, yes.
There's a cat looking in, and there's a dog looking out and a cat looking back, so it's like a two-headed like cat-dog kind of thing.
Entrance is highly competitive for both boys and girls, and those who get in still face stiff annual reassessments. About a third of the students fail to complete the course. After showing early promise, Viviana Durante left her home in Rome at the age of 11 to come to White Lodge because it offered the very best training.
You're going home this weekend?
When I got to White Lodge, I was very, very homesick because I couldn't speak the language, which is, you know, suddenly, obviously, I lived at home all the time, and suddenly I was in the middle of, no one could talk to me, or maybe, I couldn't talk to them. I couldn't sort of tell them how I was feeling and everything. The only time I actually felt at peace, it was when I did class or whatever.
One day, another teacher and myself were walking into the salon to pass through to our office. And as we were passing through, both of us stopped in our tracks and looked at this remarkable child. She has a lovely physique, proportions. She's very good looking. She has everything, actually, that one would expect for a traditional look of a ballerina. Many children actually have these things. What makes a difference is this fantastic motivation.
I think I've always had an image of what I wanted to be like, and I have a standard at which I want to reach. I've always had that in my mind, and I think I do work very, very hard, basically because I love dancing, and I'd like to do it, you know, my way.
Darcy's a little different. She didn't arrive until the third year, so she was not as well organised, shall I say, as the other children when she first got here.
Really stretched when you do those piqués. Don't let your foot go soggy. Now, nice strong toes. Tuck and tuck. Show arabesque.
I think it's absolutely essential to arrive at class having all your equipment, your shoes for girls nicely darned and the ribbons on. Everything has to be prepared and ready from a very young age.
Your arm at the bar, Jane.
When I came into White Lodge, everybody been there for 2 years, so they got used to the routine and going to class every day and coming back and tying their hair back and being constantly, you know, in scream condition and everything. But being so far behind in the actual ballet was a real strain. And I used to cry in classes every morning and think, why am I here? And they sometimes say, well, maybe you're not very suited to this. And I go, no, I am, you know, trying to support myself.
Despite these early doubts, Bustle had a triumphant breakthrough in the 5th year at the school's choreographic competition.
She was able to perform and hold the attention of the audience. Beautiful line, beautiful expression. And I have to say everybody was extremely touched. We could see at that time just how exquisite she was. There's a naturalness and openness in her movement, which is, for me, quite different from anything I've seen before.
At the end of White Lodge, both Durante and Bustle passed the next major hurdle, the auditions for the upper school. Based at Barons Court, the upper school shares a building with the Royal Ballet Company. Here there's a new element of competition, as the students are drawn from several different schools besides White Lodge. At the end of 2 years, a select few will win places in the Royal Ballet.
One of the disadvantages, I think, to having come all the way through the school with the same group of people is that some people are then fearful of leaving their peer group. They're afraid of being seen to be too ambitious apart from their group, and they sometimes find it hard to see themselves as individuals. Sometimes it takes a young dancer quite a few years before they feel they can emerge.
Only 2 or 3 girls from each class get through to the Royal Ballet. Durante won her place aged 17, only to find herself in another large group, the Corps de Ballet.
You're very restricted in the corps because obviously you have to keep in line. You can't really move and dance your fullest because you always have to be exactly the same as someone else in front of you. And unless someone does give you that chance, you know, sometimes even though you're the most talented girl ever, you might not be seen.
After 4 years, Durante got her big break in a spectacular Covent Garden debut when Principal Maria Almeida was injured during a performance of Swan Lake.
And Anthony Dowd came up to me and said, you know, Viviana Maria's hurt herself. I mean, how much do you know of the role? Can you go on stage and do it? And I just said yes. I mean, I had an idea of it because obviously, you know, I'd seen it a lot of times, but of the full fact, I really did not have any idea of what I was doing.
I mean, anybody can be given a lucky break and not handle it, but she took all of them, and she did a lot of ballets at very short notice. She did Ondine at about a week's notice. She did Sleeping Beauty at a day's notice, and she did Swan Lake at 5 minutes' notice. And she wasn't learning those roles. I mean, she wasn't even down to cover them.
I think one of my special gifts is that I have a photographic memory. I tend to look at something and I can learn it very quickly. So obviously that helped because I had seen, you know, Swan Lake a lot of times.
Dances emerge because of talent, something special. There's always something that can't be taught or created. It's something that person has. The first performances were very impressive, and it was on the strength of those that I made her a principal.
case of Darcy Bustle, her promotion to principal came when she was just 19, after choreographer Kenneth Macmillan chose her as the star of his new ballet, Prince of the Pagodas. He'd first spotted her at the school.
Of course, she's taller than most dancers, so that's one reason you notice, but also she had this wonderfully sunny personality. She had a refreshing attack to her movements, which is not typically English. It's the sort of thing I've seen in America. And I was stunned by what I saw. And then I remembered her, and when I came to do Prince of the Pagodas, I asked if I could create the leading role on her. The role, technically, was extremely demanding. I don't think I'd ever worked with a female who had such a fantastic technique, an enormous attack, and speed, and of course she has the most wonderful jump. This was very challenging for me, but the dancing was phenomenal, and I think it's quite hard for someone to follow her in that role.
So from being a junior member of the Royal Ballet's touring company, Bustle suddenly found herself a principal of the main company.
I think for a whole year I was in a state of shock. It was very hard because nobody knew me at the Royal Ballet, and they were like, "Who's this person coming?" Everybody at Sadler's were saying things like, "Look out for so-and-so, she's bitchy, and she'll put glass in your point shoes, she'll be one of those kind." Obviously they were curious in me. They had all eyes on me and like, And I felt that, but after a while I settled in and they were really sweet. I think I was probably expecting such worse things to happen to me that it was quite a relief when they didn't.
I think the main thing is coping with all the stress, and it's just keeping yourself, like when you're out of the theatre. I mean, this is what I tend to do. I tend to mix with different people, maybe have other interests. Also, I like being on my own as well. I don't get too much involved with people in the company. I think that's what helps me.
Every generation has its group of rising stars who have to find their place within the company.
We had a lot of ballerinas, my generation. We were a particularly fortunate generation. But then when you get so many each, you've got rivals in a way, in that you see somebody can do this, so then you create a different ballet, and it generates greatness. It doesn't work against it to have rivals. It generates people's individuality. You hone yourself down to be your own self, not to be a second somebody else.
Darcy looks particularly good in, say, the Balanchine repertoire, and certainly in the Forsyth piece that the Royal Ballet recently acquired, partly because they both demand such extreme positions from the dancer's body, and she's that flexible and that strong. I think, too, she has a sort of toughness, a frankness, a kind of very easy sexuality on stage that fits very well with that kind of work. You know, she's not reticent, she's not delicate, she's not shy.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. That is hard. I know it's hard, you know. You know what? Are you sitting up and taking his hands? Are you trying to do... No. When you go back, you open your legs, come, and now take his hands. Yeah, that's it. That's correct. Use your tummy. Pull her. Can you grab her? Can you grab his wrist or something? Would that help? Maybe. Yes. Good. Wait for it. Foot.
The thing that you can't miss about Darcy is that she has these incredibly long and very strong limbs.
Up, steady, down, and go.
She has such control that she can hold a position and then move into it with amazing grace and strength, so that what you get a sense of is these beautiful, beautiful shapes.
Good, go on.
Viv's actually built more like an English dancer in that she's very tiny, she's very elegantly proportioned, she moves very fast, very brilliantly. She's actually been coached a lot by Antoinette Sibley, and she has something of that rather expressive, lavish quality that Sibley has. Purely on the level of technique, Viv looks wonderful in Ashton's Thais because she's so light. Literally, her partner can kind of handle her through the air with her looking like a figment of his imagination rather than a real woman. She can do all those tiny, brilliant, graceful steps beautifully.
Even once you've reached the highest rank of the company, the competition is still fierce. Durante and Bustle have to share out performances with 5 other principals, and there are always deserving soloists coming through.
So keep close.
Having been a principal himself, Director Anthony Dowell understands very well the difficulties of company patronage.
I suppose I am literally looking after the artists, and that's why it's such a responsibility. I have their sort of career hopes and fears in my hands. It is, of course, my eye and my taste and what I feel about them that rules it, so I can mould it how I want.
Everything that happens here is based on personal opinion. I mean, it's not like you can plug into the computer and say who deserves X, Y, and Z, or who's got the best results in the exam. It doesn't work like that. And it's really a case of a group of people or one person deciding the way things should be.
Of course, there are people that I am drawn to, because I feel that they're going to interpret what I create very well. And there are others that are not chosen by me, of course, are going to feel let down and depressed. And I remember myself as a dancer, when I wasn't chosen for something, I took it very personally, and I thought the director hates me. And it wasn't that the director hated me, it was because I wasn't within the scheme of the director's plans. That's part of being a dancer, is the disappointment and the joy.
When you come to a ballerina, she is there to portray the past, the beauty of the past, the beauty of tradition and development. So she's got to have a very extra talent to do that on top of her own natural talent.
Ballerinas aren't just great dancers, they also embody the whole sort of mystique of the profession. They seem like creatures set apart from the rest of us, really. They sort of breathe a different air. And then when you see them in public, traditionally they've always been incredibly glamorous women. I mean, if you look at pictures of Pavlova, you know, she never looks kind of dowdy or messy. You know, and if ever you met Margot Fonteyn, you really just felt like curtsying. You know, they did seem like princesses. think it's hard to imagine either Viviana or Darcy having that same extraordinary aura as Pavlova or even Fontaine. I mean, democracy and feminism haven't hit the ballet world that hard, but, you know, they're around enough for it to be difficult for a young woman today to kind of think of herself or exude that sort of princess kind of aura.
Thank you, Peter.
It's just that I can't go over 30. Yeah. So I think my wheels are unlevel or something.
People don't dress so grandly. Dancers don't swan around in furs and diamonds. They wear jeans and trainers like everybody else. So the days of the really grand, the really ethereal ballerina are probably over.
But ballerinas today have a different kind of glamour. Both Bustle and Durante model for designers such as Jasper Conran and are photographed regularly for the glossy magazines.
So this will go down
This will
very
be
well.
perfect then, won't it?
It will be perfect.
And put your foot up on the toilet like that's it, and just sort of stretch it out. That's lovely. Looking up the square a bit more. Stretch the toes out. Maybe go further. That's it. That's better. Good. That's great. Good. Give it a hand. If anybody can, you can do that's it. Good.
This is day wear image.
Very smart.
Do you want to try some other jackets on?
Okay.
I work in the education department at the Oakland Zoo, and that doesn't leave me much time for cooking.
Honey, if you get this message, put the lasagna in.
I think Stouffer's quality is much better. My kids just love Stouffer's lasagna.
How's it going?
think that Viviana and Darcy, living in the 1990s, might find it really difficult engaging with the heroines of the 19th century classics. But these are the roles that are the touchstone of any ballerina's career. These are the roles that they'll ultimately be judged by, particularly in this country, because the classics are very, very important to the Royal Ballet's repertoire.
A bit flat to me. Yes, just coming forward, yes. Looks...
We went to Viviana's final rehearsal the day before her first performance as Giselle, in which she was partnered by the Russian star Irek Mukhomedov. Anthony Dahl was taking the rehearsal.
So one plays it very much how the artists want to handle it. Naturally, there's a nervous tension. They don't want to fire on both engines, as it were, before the show, because they want to keep in reserve. So it must be very much for what's been troubling them with their thoughts. Also involved in this rehearsal will be my longtime partner, Antoinette Sibley, who Viviana has a great rapport with. Antoinette is a great admirer of her qualities, and so it's a very healthy relationship. And it's very good to tap the old resource. I don't mean old, but I mean the past resources of the company, of what they have learned on stage and what I've learned on stage. So it's a sort of dual rehearsal.
Yeah, I know you're different heights and everything, but see, when we used to do it, we had after that, I don't know if the heights are wrong, but do it, Anthony, from where she protects. here.
I was like
there. And then as he came down and did that, I just used to rest my head like that, like against him.
Sometimes it's quite tricky if you have two people going at one artist. But Antoinette and I have worked together so much, and we sort of think the same way.
You're both together in a mood. It's lovely. Yes, that's lovely. And then when she calls you see, Viviana. I love rehearsing with her. She's so responsive. She listens, she's quick, she understands, and she immediately puts it into being. She's innately musical for a start. She looks ethereal, she looks frail, passion there. She's a lovely actress. You can believe in her right from the beginning.
One of the classic 19th century ballet stories, Giselle is a peasant girl who dies of a broken heart after being betrayed by her nobleman lover. She forgives him, returning as a spirit creature to protect her lover from danger.
Save that for tomorrow, too.
I think most 19th century ballets, if you simply told the story, they would sound like trite little fairy tales. But in fact, they've all got their roots in much older myths and legends. They're all what feed into those ballets and really what makes them far more profound than just a sort of bit of tinsel and tutu, which is how they're perceived sometimes by people who haven't seen them. But I think if you've seen a great production of a 19th century classic, you really feel the resonance of the story. And I think that's what a great ballerina should do. She should really make you feel the power of the world she's inhabiting.
The biggest difference, of course, between the ballets of the last century and this, I try to make everything on the stage more real, in a very stylized art form. The women are still up on point like they were in the last century, but I want to tell the audience everything about the characters I put on the stage. Certainly, I emphasize the sexuality of the female dancers in my ballets, because women are sexy, and why shouldn't they be? And why should they be ethereal creatures? They're not.
There was an amazing moment when Viviana first appeared with Eric Mukhomedov in their debut performance of Manon, when we suddenly saw this fantastically emotional, reckless, passionate woman. And it was like, you know, the dam burst, and now she is proving herself an amazingly dramatic actress.
When I started doing the dramatic roles like Romeo and Juliet, and then it was Manon, and that's when I really started feeling myself. I guess I'm really finding out about myself now. I'm finding out what I really want. who I am, and I'm admitting to my feelings a lot more. Obviously, working with different people, and especially Antoinette's sibling, Anthony Dow, I mean, they have helped me a great, great deal.
Don't you forget the four is in between.
Different people have helped me as a dancer, but I think my main is being myself.
Right, got enough. Remembering it'll get a weeny bit bigger. No, it's quite soft stuff, isn't it? This is the most comfortable one. Yes. The rest are like concrete. Yes, they are, I know that.
This year also saw Darcy Bussell's successful debut as Manon, continuing her much-admired new partnership with Hungarian dancer Zoltán Solymosi, who's recently joined the company.
Zoltán himself is taller than a lot of young men, and Darcy, we know, is about 5'7", 5'7.5". She needs a tall partner, and both of them are extraordinarily strong, but they also have a tremendous fluidity in their muscles, in their movements. They both are capable of being very powerful, but also soft. There's a gentleness in their bodies, and I think that the surprise comes that out of something that can be one moment rather understated, and suddenly it's like a bomb going off.
In the case of Manon, their height posed real problems in rehearsals. The ballet had been created on two much smaller dancers, Anthony Dowell and Antoinette Sibley.
When you choreograph something on two bodies that are different than yours, it's very hard to put the movements together to look the same kind of lines and the same forms.
And from the bourrée, you've got to pick under this leg.
And when me and Zoltán started learning it, it was very hard because we were so much taller.
Pick her up, well, spin her out, you turn round. Now, you've got to feed her out in a fish. Sorry, sorry. Up here and fish. But keep this behind the knee. No, behind your knee. There, that's it. And you put her down, kneel, kiss. She put it out, not too fast.
And some things were really quick, and it was hard to get around them because obviously being that bit longer makes a little bit more time. Some things had to be slightly slower for us.
And put her off balance there. Off balance by now. Oh! Just, you've got to do a bit.
10 days to go before their first performance in Manon, and they were still measuring out the right pacing for the higher lifts during the love scenes. Their difficulties were compounded when Solymosi fell ill the weekend before their opening. Underprepared, the couple still had to perform to a full house at the dress rehearsal.
And still having to do the rehearsal on stage in front of friends of Covent Garden and everything. And you never want to be seen badly, of course. When you do your show, you want to feel confident. And knowing that people were watching you and there was photographers out there, and even though people knew that we probably weren't ready because Zoltán had been out.
Beginner's course. Zoltán Solymosi, who is dancing the role of de Greux, is recovering from a viral infection and will not, therefore, possibly he might not dance full out.
It was a horrible feeling, you felt nasty, you wanted to get off stage, you didn't want to be there. But you knew you had to try the stage out. If we hadn't done it, our show might have not been so good. People don't realize, they think, it's just like a 9-to-5 job in a way, but you have shows in the evening. And maybe meeting a guy or a friend or anything and telling them, oh, sorry, I can't go out tonight, I've got to sew my shoes or something. But they think, just a minute here, that sounds a bit weird. But you've got to be disciplined about those things, because you don't want to let yourself go, because you can't, not for the ballet.
It's just so exhausting. It really is so tiring that you can't be out every night as well as dancing every day. And in fact, when you do that, which I then decided after my first marriage had finished, I thought, well, I now have to get myself together again for my own life, as opposed to my dancing life and my own life. And so I did start going out and partying and doing all the things I'd never been able to. And I was constantly ill. You can't mix the two, really. And then I equally well made the decision to have the child. And I longed for that baby at that point, longed for it. And equally as well, when I'd had that baby, I longed for another baby. Because you've got to be a woman as well.
The Royal Opera House, Covent Garden, performance home of the Royal Ballet since the war. Here the company gives over 100 performances a year. Every season the wardrobe department works on up to 3,000 costumes for a company of 80 dancers. They get through nearly 7,000 pairs of shoes and 2,000 wigs, in addition to their daily workload of rehearsals, bustle and durante dance in at least 50 performances a year.
Yeah, I think it's better. On stage, I do feel different. I feel as if something else comes out of me. In real life, I really do look and sound totally different. I'm very shy. But on stage, I can almost do anything. Like, I can just let myself go in any role, and it just can completely take over me. It takes me to a different world. Like, I hope I do the same to the audience.
Okay, voilà. It's completely different from what you realise when you're a kid. When I was young, I thought of all pretty and pretty costumes and pretty ballet shoes. When you get older, it becomes much more deeper. It's more of like your heart, and it's like bringing a feeling out instead of all the prettiness. I mean, that's all lovely, but it's more grit, guts and stuff. When you're dancing, it's more of a passion, I'd say. Sometimes I get so carried away, you feel nobody's there, and you'll be in your own world.
$5.90, please, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, you run on Act 1 begins call. Act 1 begins to the stage, please. Miss Durante to the stage, please. Miss Durante to the stage. Thank you.
It comes off when you say take. Are you going upstage or downstage?
No, upstage. Oh, upstage.
Alex, can you go?
best honestly is at the end when everyone just is applauding you. That's what we dance for. It's such great excitement. It's just brilliant.
Well, it takes quite a while to wind down because obviously you're on a complete high. Sometimes when you've had a few nights of shows, you'll just want to get in your car and go home and take all your flowers with you and put them in water and just get in the bath and just completely relax. Admittedly, it's like, you come out of this magical box in a way. You've obviously had the thought in the back of your head of what you've just done. But then it's coming back to reality and everything's, you go home and there's your bills on your desk and things like that, It's back down to earth, out of the clouds.
Coming up next on Bravo, see the fascinating story behind the creation of...
Welcome back to the 10th Annual XL Pro. Peter Townend here working with Mark Fu. It's time for the semi-finals, and we got a great lineup in the first semi-final and a couple of prominent internationals there, Mark.
Prominent, that would be a little bit of an understatement. We're talking about Tom Carroll in this semi-final, PT.
Truly one of the legends on the North Shore, Mark.
And probably a future legend, also from Australia, Michael Berry in the semi-final. Michael from your hometown, PT, of the Gold Coast. And we've got Dwayne Mackey out of Florida. Dwayne's going to be very much at home in the beach break conditions today. Look for him to be a surprise. Could easily go on in the semifinals. And, of course, there's Kaipo Hakias, probably the crowd favorites today. And Kaipo on fire on all the tours this year.
Well, we're set for semi-final number one. A beautiful day here on Oahu's North Shore. And out in the red looks like Michael Barry going to get the first wave.
Looks like he's right at home in this conditions, PT. What you can relate to him, does this look like Duranba or what?
Looks just like it, where I grew up, and of course Munga Barry grew up in beach breaks just like we're surfing here today, and he looks right at home here. A couple of quick maneuvers there as the wave closed out. Little rebound off the whitewater for his opening ride.
Pretty good way to start off this semi-final. You have to get off to a good strong start here, get ahead of the rest of the competitors, especially with a little bit consistent here. Dwayne Mackey eyeing up this left. Dwayne, a real tall, lanky guy, so the wave's a little bit smaller on him, but he's got that leverage going with those long legs. He's got a quick snap off there, and the wave died out a little bit. So I think Munga Berry right now is still feeling pretty comfortable, and we're waiting to see what Kaipo Hakias can answer back with, along with Tom Carroll.
Well, a good opening ride for both those competitors. Munga's looked the better, but Dwayne Mackey in these conditions should excel today. Outside on a bigger wave, Kaipo Hakias on his opening ride.
Nice right. Look for Kaipo. He's surfing is really energized. That's what word I'd use for. Look at that float. I mean, he's lifted himself above that entire section and came across it actually weightless.
That was a beautiful floating move there. He finishes off with another one. A great opening ride for Kaipo Hakias.
Steps off from the beach. That's a high-scoring wave.
Outside, paddling for his first ride on the backhand, Tom Carroll.
Tom Carroll, he's so powerful. Watch, I'm sure he's going to do some mean, vicious slash right there. He's amazing no matter how big or small it is. Beach breaks, it could be 12-foot pipeline, it could be 2-foot alki. Tom Carroll's going to be doing full rail gouges.
That was a great slash off the open face there as that wave closed out. A sign of a true champion. Here's a look again, Kaipo appears.
The Kaipo Hakias, he's one of the new guys. He's one of the guys that's doing the vanguard surfing in the 90s. Certainly the hottest young Hawaiian to be on the tour, and he'll be in force throughout the rest of this decade, I'm sure, with surfing like this.
The 1993 XL Pro started, as usual, at world-famous Sunset Beach, where a pack of hard-charging trialists hoped to surf their way into the main event. The surf in the early rounds was good, 6 to 8 feet and fairly clean. XL's Ed Diascoli takes pride in running their event at Sunset because it is a true test of a surfer's ability. The lineup is complicated by powerful currents, shifting peaks, and conditions that can change incredibly fast. Nonetheless, the long peeling rights offer every surfer the opportunity of feeling like a victor or the vanquished. Unfortunately, the swell dropped at Sunset, rendering the break unrideable, and the only option was to move the contest to a Yukai Beach Park. Australia's Michael Barry won quarterfinal number 1.
In Hawaii, the conditions are a bit the opposite. Normally it's big and heavy, but at the moment it's 2 to 3 feet and pretty contestable for the size of the waves, and there's some fun long waves where you can get a lot of manoeuvres in. You just have to pick the right one to do it.
Eric Barton picked up an interference at the beginning of the heat on Brock Little. This meant his wave score would reflect only 3 of his 4 scoring rides. However, Eric surfed really well and just about advanced despite the penalty. The struggling Brock Little tangled with Dwayne Mackey later on in the heat in a desperation attempt to try to force an interference. Fortunately, the technique backfired on Brock and he ended up finishing 3rd. Dwayne finished 2nd in the heat and was excited about making the semis.
I feel good. My boards are riding really well. Shaped by Eric Arakawa, and he always produces some really good boards, so I'm really happy with them, and I'm looking forward to surfing good.
Quarterfinal number 2 featured 3 Hawaiians and an Australian. H-Pack regular Davey Gonzalez had some equipment troubles and finished in 4th.
Winning the heat, ASP WCT standout Kaipo Hakias. Kaipo started out a little bit slowly, but gained momentum as the heat wore on. In fact, he clocked up the highest single wave score at 8.83 near the end of the heat. Last spot in Semi-1 was fought for by 2 of surfing's veteran stars. Tony Moniz from Hawaii, an H-Pack Tour mainstay, surfed well despite his well-known affinity for big surf. He was edged out, though, by Australian Tom Carroll. Tom put on a display of power and positioning, clinching the semi-final spot.
Some great-looking spectators on the beach today, Mark, as we get back into semi-final number 1 and out in the water. Right now, it looks like Dwayne Mackey taking a look at this one.
Can't see what Dwayne can do it this way. He's got an option of going either way. It looks like he's eyeing up the right. Dwayne on his backhand, which actually there's no disadvantage for him because he's going to have to be able to get it up there vertically like that. That's a big high-scoring maneuver. 2 big slashes off the top. Quick, actually, there were more slash-snap combination maneuvers. Okay, Michael Berry also sees the next right. What do you think we can do? Oh.
Doesn't go anywhere on that one. That was a bit of a disappointment for him. It looked like it started off pretty good, but here down the beach, Tom Carroll with the slash on the open face. Nice stall under the lip there, gets covered up. Does he pop out? No, it nails him on the head. Not before he got a couple of great moves in, though.
Yeah, I love Tom Carroll. You know, he was always going for broke. I mean, he already had 2 big moves in. He could have just gone for the conservative route and made that section, but Tom decides to stall it and put himself in the tube. Okay, Dwayne Mackey again, looking to put it straight up there. He's got the nose over his head, upside down. Tom Carroll, this trademark Tom Carroll carved there. He just throws fans. The guy can move so much water. And how is this stall in the tube? I mean, most people can't do that in an open face. Tom Carroll does it in the tube.
Outside, Kaipo Kias on another big outside move. Comes off the top hard there, and another floater over that section.
You know, these waves are so well suited for... How's that little tail slide he did up the top of the lip there, PT? I mean, that's going to be really well appreciated by the judges because they'd love to see that tail freedom.
Kias is looking really strong out here today in these beach break conditions. Here's a look at it from the water. Beautiful floating move. We'll be back with more. the North Shore of Oahu. We're at the 10th annual XL Pro. Peter Townend working with Mark Fu. Got a great semi-final going on out here.
In the water, we've got Kaipo Hakias way out in front of this semi-final, looking like a sure bet for the finals. Tom Carroll, Dwayne Mackey also in the running along with the Michael Berry.
Here's a look at the first wave as we come back from the break. Dwayne Mackey off the bottom, whacks it off the top right there. Comes around that section, sets up again. Nice floating move over that section. And this is the wave he needed.
You know, it's really interesting in these beach break conditions. It's kind of like they can imagine they're at home. Dwayne Mackey from Sebastian Inlet, Florida. Obviously, that looked like a Sebastian Inlet wave. It could look like a Ehukai Beach Park wave for Kaipo Hakias here at his home break.
Well, it looks pretty comfortable out here today. Well, he nearly catches the edge there. This wasn't one of his better rides so far. He's had a couple of strong ones in the early going.
I think he's just probably feeling pretty confident and wants to keep his rhythm going. Another look at Dwayne Mackey. Dwayne really came out of the trials for this event. Here he is in the semifinals, looking like a pretty good shot at the finals at this particular stage of this semifinal. Big floater there. This is the type of maneuvers the judges are going to score the highest points on, and these guys that's what they're going for. Michael Berry on his backhand. I love this guy's style, PT. What's up with the Gold Coast surfers? They're really just style monsters, aren't they?
Well, you grow up in those long, reeling right-hand point breaks, and it gives you a lot of opportunity to develop style. And he's a classic stylist in the mold of the guys that grew up there like myself and Rabbit and Michael Peterson.
Hey, Kaipo Hakias, this guy, the future of Hawaiian surfing right here. How was that little tail slide off the top? Another big bang off the top of his backhand. Kaipo just, energized. I'd say he's really building momentum. He's had started competing today. Just anytime he wants to break the tail free, just run a slide under the beach there.
Well, Kaipo Hakias dominating semi-final number one. Here's a look at maybe the last wave of this semi-final. Tom Carroll paddling in it on the backhand. He gets up on the backhand. Can he get some good maneuvers in it as he races down the beach? Good off the top there, down the line. And a nice floater at the end. And will that be enough, Mark?
Well, that was a great example of Tom Carroll's experience. He used every second available to him in that he caught that wave, got up just before the final buzzer. And I think that was the fourth wave he may have needed.
Well, Dwayne Mackey charged hard there at the latter part of that semi-final, but will Tom Carroll's last wave be enough?
Well, for sure we got Kaipo Hakias. Tom Carroll does get the edge on that last wave, moving on to the final.
It's time for semi-final number two here at the 10th annual XL Pro. And Mark, again, we have a great lineup here. It's a pretty healthy one, just about as good as the first semi-final.
Yeah, if anybody's got a record that's close to Tom Carroll's, or maybe better, who knows, Derek Ho. In this semi-final, Derek won 2 Pipe Masters here at Ehukai, has won 4 Hawaiian Triple Crowns. Number certainly always in the title of the world for the chase for the world title. So Derek Ho looks on paper like the favorite for this semi, but he's got some serious competition, primarily, I think, in Noah Boudreau. Noah grew up surfing with Derek, grew up surfing these beaches, experienced competitor on HPAC, PSAA, ASP, been quiet the last couple of years, but making a big opening statement in the start of this North Shore season by dominating surfing at Sunset in the early rounds, working his way through the semis here at Ehukai. So Noah Boudreau also making a big statement right now. And then also we've got Marty Thomas, another very experienced veteran competitor, spent a lot of time surfing these beaches, certainly knows how to surf in these kind of conditions, and Marty would know how to find a way to the finals as well, along with Jason Gantz, who's anybody's been watching HPAC this year has seen his name, seen his surfing. Jason, honor roll, he's in the top 3 right now. Knows how to compete. These conditions are good for him. He's really fast, loose, quick surfing. So this is going to be a real exciting semifinal.
Again, a great lineup for semifinal number 2. Let's get to the water.
All right, opening wave, Noah Boudreau. I always like to see who catches the first wave in a heat, Peter, because I have a theory that usually that first wave sets the tone for the entire heat for a guy.
Particularly in beach break conditions, Mark, because you've got to get off to a good start. Waves are few and far between, and it's usually quantity over quality when the surf's like this.
Well, that was a good quality start for Noah Boudreau here. Marty Thomas gets his little float action going on the right here. Another float off the top. But the waves are lining up better. The tide's coming in. You guys got more room to work with, more maneuvering is going to be done.
Seems like we're seeing mainly the rights today, though. Not too many lefts out here.
Well, there are some good ones. The guys are scoring high going both ways. So the lefts are a little bit shorter and pocketier, and the rights got more wall down the beach. Of course, the length of the ride's going to help the more maneuvers. They're definitely going to be scoring on maneuvers today. Speaking of maneuvers, let's look at Noah Boudreau's. The big slash 180 cut back off the top, actually more of a 270-degree turn. Noah's really been versatile throughout this event because he has started off in bigger waves, more powerful waves, reef waves at Sunset Beach, and here he is at Ehukai looking like a strong charge in the semifinals.
Well, that was a great opening ride there, scored in the 7s for Noah Boudreau, and he gets off to a good start. Here's Derek Ho, a fantastic competitor, one of the most experienced guys on the North Shore. Nice vertical move and floating move off the whitewater there. Another vertical slash on the open face. Another rip on the open face. A great opening ride for Derek Ho.
Well, I think Derek's made his opening statement there pretty strong. Right behind him, Jason Gantz. As you said, Jason, the new name on HPAC, doing maneuvers such as that. That was, what do they call that? Kind of the almost going into 360 rebound, tail slide, reverse?
Well, that's definitely surfing of the 90s. It's been popularized by, of course, Kelly Slater. Here's a look at Ho again with that great vertical floating move off the whitewater.
Derek's been on the world tour now for over a decade, and, you know, he's still getting better. He's still doing the stuff that it takes to compete with the kids right there.
When stressed. 10th annual XL Pro here on the North Shore of Oahu. We got a great semi-final going on out in the water. Number 2, and Derek Ho out in front in the early going.
Well, it's a great heat. Anything can still happen. It's early. Noah Boudreau, Jason Gantz, Marty Thomas, all capable of winning this heat, winning this event. Okay, Noah Boudreau. See what he can do with this wave. Noah's definitely looking at the rights all day, kind of trying to set up for something big here on the inside. Floater, playing on top of the lip there. Who would have ever thought, you know, the guys would be surfing out the back of the wave and doing little turns and then coming back into it?
Well, Mark, if you remember back to the 70s, if you rode on the back of the wave, the judges thought you were kind of kooky. But today, that's state-of-the-art surfing. They do it all. They go everywhere on the wave, on the front, over the back, all around. Here's Marty Thomas.
You know, Marty, he's a great example of tenacious. Marty's been on the tour now for, you know, close to 8-9 years, and he's still at it, still hungry, ready to take on whatever the conditions throw at him. Marty, I don't know about that in the way of being good enough to move him up into the first or second spot. I'd say it's still Derek and Noah, but anything can still happen, especially when we've got beach break situation like this. Derek Cohen, a great set right.
Well, he comes off the bottom, explodes off the top there with that move, comes around the section again. Good little rip on the open face, finish off with a good backside floater. Another strong ride for Derek Ho.
I'd say that was pretty much of a constant ride here for the conditions today. You couldn't do any more in the wave than he did. Okay, Jason Gantz also in his backhand. Jason got a long ways to go. He's still very young. He's going to go very far, maybe right here, feeling some pressure.
But having a great season on the HPAC, his real first full season, he's in the top 5, Mark.
Well, speaking of the top 5 here, Derek Ho has been there for years and years and years, and this is why. Straight up, bang, off the top, brings it all the way back around. Sets it up again, straight up again, wham. You know, he's got his perfect control on the edge. It makes it look so easy, but he's right on the edge of, you know, being the most critical place.
Derek picks up an 8.33 for one of the best rides of today. The surfers in semi-final number 2 qualified by surviving a tough pair of heats in quarters 3 and 4.
Tony Ray of Australia started the heat strong by getting a clean tube ride, but after that he had a hard time staying on his board and ended up finishing 4th. Hot young Hawaiian Poncho Sullivan, a trialist, had won 2 heats in the big stuff at Sunset before the contest was moved, bowed out in 3rd. He was unable to catch a wave that offered more than a couple of maneuvers. Taking 2nd and advancing to semi number 2 was Jason Gantz of Makakilo. Jason has made his presence felt on the HPAC tour this year with his radical and confident attack. Derek Ho won quarter 3 by catching the biggest and best shaped waves and ripping them all the way to the sand. When in Hawaii, Derek definitely has the home court advantage.
It's been a couple weeks now since I've been home from Brazil, and it just feels good to be back home and surfing here in Hawaii in the nice, clean, warm water. And I'm going to try and go out there and get in the finals.
Heat number 4 proved to be the toughest of the quarterfinals. Marty Thomas, Hans Ederman, and Shane Aran matched each other wave for wave, all wanting an opportunity to surf through the semis and into the finals.
Hans was very selective in his wave choice and only rode 5 waves during the heat. His best 4 scoring rides were only worth 4th place, unfortunately. Shane Horan, the veteran of professional surfing these days, scored higher than Hans. In fact, 2 of the 5 judges had him tied with Marty Thomas for 2nd in the heat. But it was Marty Thomas' 3rd wave score, which is nearly an 8.0, that gave him the semifinal slot. Marty's been traveling the world in search of ratings points this year.
I didn't do too well in Brazil, but Vietnam was a very crucial event for me because it was a 4-star, and I got 5th place there, so that really helped my ratings, and hopefully, will be enough to get through to the next year. So I'm hoping for a strong finish in Hawaii.
The winner of quarterfinal number 4 was Noah Boudreau. Noah has enjoyed much competitive success, especially on the US national tour. However, during the last couple of years, his focus has seemed to be snowboarding more than surfing competitions. The XL contest has marked a return to competitive form for Noah, and he was a standout in the early rounds at Sunset. His ability to stay on while exiting from collapsing tubes warrants the nickname Bluefoot. Noah was just as impressive in the smaller surf at a Yukai. Well, back to the action in semi-final number 2 as it's winding down here. We've got a great heat going on out in the water right now. Here's Noah Boudreau picking up a wave here towards the end, driving down the line, looking for a little cover up there as it closes out. Can he get another maneuver in? Or maybe a little reform on the inside?
That's a lot harder than it looks, PT. Those waves are, it looks like it's soft, but it's actually still Hawaiian North Shore surf. It's just breaking the shallow sand. Team Marty Thomas looking for his right closing wave, see what he can do with it. You know, Noah's the only guy so far has been getting tubes and cover-ups here in this semifinal, and Marty doesn't look like the kind of wave you're going to need to move on into the finals, but we'll see how the final results come out. But it looks like the set waves are going to be making the difference to the competitors today, and on the next set, looks like it's going to be Derek Ho.
Well, he's had a strong performance in this semi-final. A couple of outstanding waves, one of the highest scoring of the day. On the backhand, once again, a little snap off the top. Comes around that section, rips it off the top one more time, and goes for the floater as it closes out there. And another upside-down maneuver as it closes out. He's really looking good out here today in this beach break.
Well, I'd say Derek Ho is sewing up a spot in the finals, but that last exchange between Marty Thomas and Noah Boudreau should be very telling as to which one of those two will make the finals.
Here's a look at that wave of Noah Boudreau's again. He gets that cover up from the takeoff. Picked up a decent 7.0 score. And Marty Thomas here with the floater at the takeoff gets a pretty decent score himself, a 6.0. But it looks like Noah might have the edge.
Well, you know, that tube ride is, everybody's doing a lot of the floaters off the top stuff, but that tube ride and then the stuff Derek Ho's doing here, such precise, radical surfing, just on top of the lip, right on the edge. And it's a lot more critical, a lot tougher than Derek Ho makes it look, but here is professional surfing at its finest.
Well, it looks like Derek Ho and Noah Boudreau will join Tom Carroll and Kaipo Aklias in our finals, despite some good surfing from Marty Thomas. When we come back, we're going to take a look at Oahu's North Shore. To H-Pack Surfing on the Prime Network. The islands in the Hawaiian chain are a great vacation destination for people from around the world. People are drawn to the lush tropical beauty, unbelievable weather, and the crystal clear waters of the Pacific. Most come to Oahu and life's greatest beach, Waikiki. Others venture to the outer islands in search of a quieter, slower pace. However, for surfers looking for the biggest and most powerful waves in the world, there is only one place to go, Oahu's North Shore. From late September to February, the focus is on the stretch of the North Shore from Haleiwa to Kawela. This 8-mile stretch has dozens of points, reefs, sandbars, and coves that receive the north and west swells. Winter storms in the North Pacific generate huge swells that travel thousands of miles across open ocean till they reach the Hawaiian Islands. Storms from as far north as the Aleutian Islands near Alaska. Here the waves unleash their power on the many reefs and sandbars that make up the North Shore. Surfers who converge here each winter are seldom disappointed. Some come in search of money and fame through participation in pro contests, while others come to test their ability and limits. The waves during the winter will range from 5 to 25 feet. Some of the more well-known breaks include Sunset Beach, with its huge peaks and long, usually hollow rights. There is Waimea Bay and its unbelievable size where men ride mountains. And perhaps the most famous, the Banzai Pipeline. This is the ultimate test of a surfer's ability with its critical takeoff, thick throwing lip and shallow impact zone. This wave demands respect from all who ride it. With such great surf, the North Shore of Oahu would have to be considered the mecca of big wave riding. 1993 has been the inaugural year for the Muri Boogie National Pro Bodyboarding Tour. This new circuit included 7 events, some in conjunction with the Bud Surf Tour stops and others with the H-Pack contest. The prize money has been increased and exposure boosted with all events being covered on Prime Network. These elements, together with a growing pack of talented bodyboarders, have created some of the best pro competition since the sport's inception. Back to defend his 5-year reign as national champion was Mike Stewart of Kailua Kona, Hawaii. Mike and his powerful and inventive surfing has helped to make bodyboarding one of the most popular pastimes in coastal cities around the world. His quest to win a 6th title would not be an easy one, and heading the list of challengers was rookie pro Brian Wise of San Clemente, California. Event number 1 was held in Huntington Beach back in June as part of the Richie Collins Drug Users Life Abuse event. The surf was in the 3 to 4 foot range and juicy. The final featured Chris Burkhardt, Tim Ross, and the first of many battles, Mike Stewart and Brian Wise. Brian is a consistent performer and surfed aggressively in the entire heat. He scored a 25.5 out of 30 on a wave early in the heat and built upon that score to win round 1. Mike Stewart finished 2nd. Stop number 2 was in Oceanside and featured some new talent. After some tough semi-final action, Mike Stewart and Brian Wise were joined by Guilherme Tomega of Brazil and George Di Marino of Carlsbad in the final. Wise had a weak scoring heat and finished in 4th. Meanwhile, Stewart was hoping to take the win and make up some lost ground on Wise. Tomega and Di Marino had other ideas, however, and seriously challenged the world champion. It wouldn't be enough, though, and Mike Stewart won stop number 2 and regained the ratings lead. The Maury Boogie National Pro Bodyboarding Tour then moved to Hawaii, where it joined the TNC event at Ala Moana. The surf was small, but the competition was tight, with many interferences being levied as the pro sport for wave priority. Mike Stewart was upset in an early round heat, and this created an opportunity for Brian Wise to regain the number 1 spot in the points race. He was joined in the final by Lance and Ronquillo, Jackie Buda, and Chris Taloa. The reef break surf was a change of pace, and Lanson came away with his first pro win. Wise finished in 4th and regained the number 1 rank. Stop number 4 was held at Oahu's Sandy Beach. Both Wise and Stewart failed to make the final. Stewart fared a little better, but Wise remained in the lead. The final was won by big and powerful Kainoa McGee. Jackie Buda made his 2nd final in a row and finished in 2nd. 3rd went to Aka Lyman, and 4th went to Chris Burkhardt. The tour returned to California for the annual Body Glove Surf Bout at Lower Trestles. The surf was 2 to 4 feet in some of the best conditions of the year. With 3 events to go, the title race was on everyone's mind. Ben Severson, Stewart's longtime rival again, failed to make the final, struggling through the worst slump of his career. The final of the 5th event of the year included Kauai Classic team member Chris Tenberg, Guilherme Tomega, and the title contenders Stewart and Wise. Tenberg and Tomega tangled early in the heat and both received interference penalties. Meanwhile, Brian had started the heat strong with an 8.0 on his first wave. This left Stewart playing catch-up the rest of the heat, and he was never able to close the gap. Wise was in good shape heading into San Francisco. Stop number 6 was held in the powerful beach break surf of San Francisco. This event had the ability to perform as a spoiler for both Stewart and Wise. Wise could lengthen his lead with a strong performance, and Stewart could put himself back into contention. Everyone knew Mike would probably place better in the 6 to 8 foot peaky lefts and rights, but no one expected to see Brian eliminated before the final. The loss by Brian Wise in the semis enabled Mike Stewart to once again take the points lead heading into the final event of the season. When we come back, we'll take a look at the final event of the season in Hawaii. Welcome back to a Ukai Beach Park on the North Shore of Oahu for the 1993 XL Pro. I'm Peter Town, and along with Mark Fu, we're going to continue our look back at the Maury Boogie National Pro Bodyboarding Tour 1993 season by going now to the final event, which was held at Maley Point on Oahu's west side. You'll recall that after the San Francisco event, Mike Stewart had taken over the points lead from Brian Wise. And going into the final Hawaiian event, he held a narrow 145-point edge over Wise for the national championship.
Today would be the day that the final winner would be decided. All the big guns are present at Miley, ready to do battle in the West Side Surf. because a good final result of today's event would mean a better chance for a better ranking next year. The event, which had been moved from the North Shore over to the west side, was held in small surf, but by the quarterfinals, all the top-ranked surfers were still in the running.
Quarterfinal number 1 featured Stewart's arch rival Brian Wise, whose performance in the weaker conditions was not adequate for him to advance out of the heat, thereby clinching the title for Stewart, who had made it into the quarterfinals as well, but would not surf until heat number 3. Mike talked with some relief about his 6th consecutive national title.
First of all, for the rest of this event, I'm taking it like any other event. I'm not going to slow down at all. Yeah, I'm really excited about winning the whole tour again. It's great. It was a really difficult year for me this year, traveling and stuff. You did some traveling with me, and it was kind of a grind. Originally I didn't think that I'd be doing the tour because I wasn't too sure if anyone was going to come out with the cash, but fortunately Maury came to the plate and sponsored it, so there's only a small problem for me because I had to mix the two schedules, the schedule of the tour and the schedule of my traveling, so it was real difficult, so it's real satisfying to come on top. I didn't think I'd do it this year.
With that issue being settled, the remaining competitors went about the business of the big contest at hand.
Quarterfinal number 2 saw a great lineup of competitors. Ben Severson, a longtime Stewart rival, whose 1993 season saw him slip into the 6th spot overall, had a great heat and would advance to the semis.
Kainoa McGee, winner of the Sandy Beach event, also performed well and earned himself a spot in semi number 1 next to Severson. Chris Burkhart and Joey Vieira rounded out the well-matched heat, but did not advance.
Quarterfinal number 3 featured not only Mike Stewart, but Jackie Buddha and our own Jay Reel as well, along with Jeremy Olsen.
Stewart showed no sign of letdown in the heat, and he and Jackie Buddha found themselves advancing into semifinal number 2.
Quarterfinal number 4 saw George DiMarino and Chris Tenberg, along with Doug Cockwell and Robbie Gold. And as it would turn out, Cockwell and DiMarino defeated Tenberg and Gold to capture the last 2 semi-final berths.
The semis themselves were exciting and surprising heat. Semi number 1 saw Ben Severson and Chris Fessenden take out David Kelly and Kainoa McGee to earn their spots in the 4-man final. In semi number 2, Mike Stewart and Jackie Buder defeated Doug Cockwell and George DiMarino to round the last 2 final openings.
So the final would feature Ben Severson, Jackie Buder, Chris Fessenden, and Mike Stewart. Ben Severson talked about the conditions before the heat.
Surf conditions really changed. The swell's dropping kind of fast. Swell's coming a bit out of the north, so it's really hard to line up for the bigger sets. And the medium-sized waves look like they're doing a little bit better. It's real long paddles, and surf's not as good as I was hoping it'd be, for our Hawaii events. But, it's nice to be close to home, and water's warm, and it's not bad. I'll give it another go.
Well, they all gave it another go, and at the end of a hard-fought final heat, Mike Stewart was the champion of the day and the man of the year.
Congratulations to Mike Stewart, the 1993 Maury Boogie National Bodyboarding Champion. Welcome back to the 10th Annual XL Pro here on the North Shore, and it's time for the finals. We have a great final. 2 of the legends of the sport in Tom Carroll and Derek Ho out here against a couple of up-and-coming hot young surfers from Hawaii.
Again, like you said, we've got 2 legends, Derek Ho and Tom Carroll. There's not a whole lot more we can say about these guys and their performances in the North Shore for the last 10 years. Also, there's always been that dark horse role in the finals, and this year it was filled by Noah Boudreau, who's made a big comeback, making a big statement, and came through the trials from round 1, and here he is in the finals. But the crowd favorite has to be today, Kaipo Hakias. Kaipo, young, on-fire Hawaiian, and tearing up the tour, looking for his first North Shore win. He's got the hunger, and he's got the momentum behind him and the push, so it's really going to be a very, very hotly contested final.
Well, the 2 legends will take on Boudreau and Hakias. Let's go to the water.
Yeah, again, PT, that opening wave is such an important factor in every heat. Now here we are in the finals of the 1993 XL Pro, up and riding, right off the bat. Kaipo Hakias, as I said, the crowd favorite. Boom, just came off the top so quick and his free fell down to the bottom. This is the way you want to start off a final.
Well, based on the semi-final performances, Hakias has to be considered a favorite, along with Derek Ho, who looked excellent in the semi-finals also.
Okay, Tom Carroll, another got to be probably the man you're rooting for in this final. Another Australian legend surfer here, proving his mettle in 2 to 3 foot, actually anywhere else in the world, we call this 3 to 6 foot Ehukai Beach Park, and Tom Carroll not letting off.
And word has it, this is Tom Carroll's last competitive season. He's going to retire from full-time competition after the final event at Pipeline.
Wouldn't know looking at that wave. I mean, Tom Carroll is still right there. I think the only reason he's it's certainly not because of his performance. If he's retiring, it's because he wants to concentrate on his family and his business. But his surfing is still red hot.
Here's a look at Akias again with a great slash off the top, free-falling down mark.
I mean, we wish you could pull off one maneuver like that in a wave. And here, Kaipo does one. So it's right back up there and pulls off another one. Tom Carroll, the same kind of stuff. How long has he been doing this? I remember the first time I saw him surfing back in about 77 on his backhand doing state-of-the-art surfing then, and he's still at it.
Well, one of my last competitive losses was to Tom Carroll at the bow repairs in Sydney. I remember he just kicked my butt coming off a knee injury.
We're still kicking butt. Speaking of kicking butt, Derek Ho did that in the semis, and see what he does in the... Oh, that was... Derek, he's... You have to really watch him closely because he's so deceptive. He makes it look so easy, and that was, critical surfing all the way.
First look, Noah Boudreau. Here's a little stall for the barrel. He gets a nice cover up on that right.
Noah's been getting tubed in this event since round 1, heat 1 of the trials, and here he is in the finals using the same technique, different type of conditions, but getting long waves, milking from them all their worth, and getting tube rides.
Well, so far, the two upstarts, the two so-called youngsters against the legends, are looking pretty good out here today at Ukai.
It's I'd say at that first exchange from everybody, it's pretty even. Derek Ho's wave selection might give him a little bit of an edge, a little bit more size, but Noah, he's the only guy getting tube rides like this, and that wave might look soft, but most people will get knocked out very easily by that lip, and Noah just, glue puts himself through it and continues on with his ride, takes it all the way to the beach.
It's an interesting matchup, too, with the fact that we have the legends on their backhand primarily, and the two youngsters on their forehand out here at the beach park today.
Interesting start for Kuiper Hawkcast in this wave. He got off the wave on the outside part of the sandbar and set it up with the big roundhouse cutback. Here he's got the inside lining up in front of him, just bringing it all the way around. That's 2 major maneuvers, 3 on this wave, 4. Kuiper Hawkcast certainly on fire. You can tell this is championship surfing because they're in the finals and the level's been lifted.
Definitely, and Akias showed it right there. Here's a look at the veteran, Tom Carroll on the backhand, takes the drop, drops to the bottom, drives down the line, looking for the speed here. Little floater over that white water. Can he get back to the green face? This wave looks like it's getting away from him. No, he comes around a little section. Oh, pulls a nice backside rail grab, but gets gobbled up.
That was pretty cool. That would have been a great free surfing wave. Unfortunately, in a contest situation, you got to have some open faces, chalk up those points. Okay, but it is the finals of the XL Pro, and where do we stand right now, PT?
Kaipo Kias out in front over Tom Carroll. We'll be back with more finals action after this short break. North Shore for the 10th annual XL Pro. We're into the finals. Peter Townend working with Mark Fu. We've got a great final going on. The youngsters, Akias and Boudreau, out in front over the veterans Carroll and Ho at this point.
Well, Peter, it's Kuiper Hawkcast's birthday today, and it could be his day in the water, too. Here he is with one of the bigger waves so far we've seen today. Lots of room to work with. Boom! How's that roundhouse cutback rebound combination?
That was a great move. He does another one on the inside. Akias with a great off the top on the inside, and he's really looking on top of his surfing today, and he's looking like he could take his first ever pro win in the XL Finals. In these beach break conditions, quality selection has been a key today.
Just got to look for the ones that has the wall. You can kind of see that as you paddle for your wave. A lot of guys get mixed up just going for the peak, and the peak is just one move, and then there's nothing after. It's a lot of choice, good choice, wave selection. And I think so far that's been getting me through, just right wave selection.
Well, wave selection and surfing like this, I'd say, you can pick great waves, but this is the kind of moves, the type of surfing the judges want to see. And okay, Derek Ho's making his move. The local boys obviously feeling their oats right here and feeling real confident. Both Derek and Kuiper surfing without leashes, which is, maybe it's a psychological ploy, but also says a lot about their confidence level right now.
Well, that was a good wave from the outside for Derek Ho, but it died on the inside. Meanwhile, Noah Boudreau getting another cover up on the inside, finishing off very strongly on this wave. Derek Ho had a good outside strong move, but no inside to go with it.
And Noah's wave was it should have been a really high-scoring wave. It was critical positioning all the time. Normally, that's a big element in the judging criteria, critical positioning. He was in the tube, in the pocket pretty much the entire time. He got one opportunity to throw it up in the lip, which he did. And there was a lot of backwash to deal with, a lot of turbulence. Noah's living up to the glue foot name throughout this event. throws it up there, even though the lip was coming straight down on top of him, and hope that should have been a good high-scoring way for Noah, who does keep him in second place.
Well, the up-and-comers continue to dominate this final. Akias and Budrow out in front. The veterans need to get some good scores, but Budrow has been making a great comeback after being off the scene here for the last couple of years. For years, Larry Rios was one of Hawaii's most underrated surfers, but as the 1992 H-Pac champion, the depth of his talent in surfing could no longer be hidden. Perhaps his biggest challenge was defending his crown in 1993, a task he was worthy of.
It's been a really good year for me. It was the first year I really went on the surfing tour, and I was lucky to be home when they held the contest. So and I won one in the beginning of the year, and that started it off really good for me. So I feel really comfortable about my surfing right now. Everybody matures, and I think I'm just maturing right now, and my surfing, everybody is beginning to see what my ability can be like, and I guess they like it, so I'm just keeping it up for now.
Larry's commitment to three-peat as H-Pac champion next year is bad news for the competition. From there, it's on to the World Championship Tour as a major contender and respected representative of the Hawaiian Islands. Back to the water at the 10th annual XL Pro. We've got a great final going on out here in the water. Kaipo Akias and Noah Budrow. They're real tight right now as we get down to the latter part of the final. And the two veterans, they've kind of distanced themselves a bit there, Mark.
But Tom Carroll and Jericho are anytime are capable of pulling down a couple 8 and 9 and be right back in there. Kaipo Hakias is distancing himself from the rest of the final. Who? Upside down, backhand re-entry, straight up there again, full slash and burn type of turning. Kaipo is fairly light-footed, but when he wants to turn on the power, it's right there. And again, Kaipo taking all the way to the beach, one last maneuver on the sand. He's lucky he hasn't broken a fin off yet today.
And that was one of the rarer lefts here in the final. It was a good one for Akias, and would have increased his lead here in the final. He's looking very strong for a win out here today. Budrow, we saw there, a little frustrated, couldn't get on that wave. Here's again a good look at that wave. He gets it so vertical on the lip right there. Akias with the strong move there, and picked up the good score, I'm sure, from the judges, increasing that lead that he's had.
The thing about the surfing these days that Kaipo Hakias is doing, it's so acute and extreme. You notice their turns are beyond vertical. Here, Jericho also doing that kind of, they're putting that little extra emphasis, a little bit of more of a zang, zip into their turns, and you have to do that these days. You want to be in the finals if you want to win a final. Jericho finally picking. Tom Carroll picks up the left, pulls in the tube, slips out to the bottom. This, Tom is so powerful and yet so smooth, and he makes it, I keep saying these guys make it look easy, but that's what true professionals do.
Well, the two veterans there, Ho and Carroll, getting strong waves here as we're getting down near the end. A good wave from Carroll. He finishes that one off all the way in with some strong surfing. Might have been his best wave of the final.
I guess I said, these guys are always capable of getting 8s, 9s in any type of conditions. Here, Jericho, again, getting it straight up there, just throwing his board around, complete control. But, it's going to come down to those 4 or 5 waves and the consistency in the wave selection when you get to this final situation. Here, Tom Carroll, this was, it seems to me, is a little bit underscored. That's a great takeoff, a great stall in the tube. Took it all the way to the beach, and I don't know if the judges may have missed it or watching another guy riding the other way, but sometimes that happens.
Well, it seems to me that the judges are favouring the on-the-face manoeuvres, and this guy, Noah Budrow, and also Kaipo Akias today, their on-the-face manoeuvres have been excellent. There's Budrow with the roundhouse wraparound into the whitewater. Good little snap wraparound again on the inside. And Budrow, they're finishing this wave off as we hear the hooter sounding there. And I don't know if this wave counts for Akias, the last wave here possibly. He goes up with a big floater right there at the end. And if this wave counts, he won the final.
Definitely. I don't know, though. It sounded like it was right on that, I think he got up after that third horn, and that was the deciding factor, but we'll find out.
To Surfing Magazine today. Your special price comes to only $166 per copy, compared to $395 at the newsstands. Have your credit card handy and call 1-800-554-5000 now.
Super Slam! The 10th annual XL Pro is brought to you by XL Wetsuits, Gatorade for that deep down body thirst, and Maury Boogie Bodyboards. Put your body on a boogie. Welcome back to the North Shore of Oahu. Well, the final results are in, and it did come down to Kaipo Akias and Noah Budrow. But today out here, the victory does go to Kaipo Akias, his first victory on his birthday.
great, right on from Kaipo. It's been his first victory, but I'm sure, guaranteed, PT, this won't be his last. Kaipo, very bright future in pro surfing, certainly in Hawaii, anywhere else on the tour. And great for Nobu Drill, made a big comeback.
A great win for Akias. He gave us his thoughts just after the final.
It's kind of weird. This was my birthday, needing the points. It's a lot of mixed feelings going on, and I just kind of like took it as just to concentrate and surf hard and get my waves, and just had that feeling the whole time, and it got me through every heat, having the same feeling, and I just kept that and kept it up to the Lord to guide me and, you know, bring something to me, and, you know, the outcome he gave it to me, which I, you know, really happy about.
Okay, another happy man has to be Larry Rios, the 1993 Hawaiian Pro-Am Circuit champion. Kaipo Hakias #2. Look for those guys back in '94 to be another great HPAC season.
Congratulations to our champion here today, Kaipo Akias. The legends just couldn't do it, Mark.
Well, they were doing it. I mean, they were surfing as good as those guys surf. And it was just a matter of the class. This is a classic example of the old school versus the new school of surfing in the 90s. And, you know, the judges want to see the new fresh moves, and Kaipo Hakias has got them all. And there's not been anybody did anything less than extraordinary in that final. But, you know, he did what they wanted to see these days. It's 1993, almost 1994, almost time for HPAC to start all over again.
That's right. This is the last of the HPAC series for this year. And again, congratulations to our champion of the HPAC, Larry Rios, winning it 2 straight years. Peter Townend and Mark Fu, we've had a great season here in Hawaii. We'll be back with more on the Prime Network next year.